if you're not one of these super rich people, you have to understand your money probably isn't managed the same as theirs. And here's what I mean. It is all about the difference between what I like to call symmetrical investing versus asymmetrical investing. So, of course, that begs the question, what the heck does that mean, right?
Welcome to Retirement Today. My name is Zach Holcomb, and alongside me we have Michael Reese, founder and president of Centennial Advisors, located right here in Austin, Texas. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great, and hey, let's go ahead and go on the record and say I hope I'm at least starting to lose some weight because I'm doing this crazy thing called exercise. So we'll see how that affects my life, how it affects my energy level today.
Right, I've never heard of her. Let me know how it goes. All right, so on today's show, I'm really excited about what we have to discuss here today. We're talking about the 3 keys to financial prosperity, correct?
That's right. 3 keys to financial prosperity. So what we want to talk about today, Zach, is what are the 3 things that you absolutely have to do? Like, what do you have to do in order to enjoy true, complete financial security? Now, I'm not talking about incomplete financial security. Like, if you want to make sure that you are completely financially secure, we're going to talk about how to do that today. And, what we find, Zach, is, most people, they have some financial security maybe, but it's incomplete. Our job today is to talk about what are the 3 things you need to do for you to have complete financial security no matter what.
Right. So some people might be covered in 1 or 2 of these areas, but your point is you have to account for all 3.
You got to account for all 3. Very true.
What's the first one that comes to mind?
You have to manage your money effectively. And we're going to talk more about what that means in a little bit right here on this segment. Number 2, you've got to plan for taxes, right? You've got to keep more money in your pocket, give less to the IRS. And I don't know if you saw this. I know we'll talk about this later in the show, but I see that in Biden's new tax plan, he wants to basically make Americans taxed at the highest rate in the world on capital gains. So, we'll talk about that. And number 3, you get your money managed properly, you get your taxes managed, but guess what? Sometimes things happen that you don't expect. So you have to protect yourself. You have to have protections in place to make sure that you're in good shape if things happen that, quite frankly, you didn't plan on.
Yeah, all 3 of those things seem pretty equally important to me, but I know we're going to talk about managing your money properly first.
Yeah, let's start there. So here is the biggest problem out there. And I see, Zach, we see this every day. And I mean every day. And this is because it is a big problem with the financial industry. So let's start here. Let's imagine you are super wealthy.
Okay.
You've got tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. Like, you've got some serious money.
I like thinking about this already.
Yeah, you win the lottery, right? Yay team. Anyway, the point is you got a lot of money. And because you have a lot of money, you are able to work with the very best investment advisors in the country, in the world. Like, you have access to the absolute best.
The 1%.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to understand, if you're that person, your money is probably managed very differently than everybody else out there. Right? So as you're sitting there listening, maybe you're driving the car and you're stuck in traffic. It's Austin. We have traffic again. Maybe maybe you're at home, wherever you are. If you're not one of these super rich people, you have to understand your money probably isn't managed the same as theirs. And here's what I mean. It is all about the difference between what I like to call symmetrical investing versus asymmetrical investing. So, of course, that begs the question, what the heck does that mean, right?
Yeah. Pretty interesting concept.
I can barely pronounce symmetrical and asymmetrical sometimes.
Right.
But so what does it mean? What is the difference between these things? Well, here's what it means. This is how 99.9%, by the way, I guess I shouldn't use a percentage without having actual data to back it up, but it seems like 99.99% of people we talk to are investing symmetrically. So what does that mean? Here's what it means. It means that if you go back in time, if you look at your portfolio, how your money's invested, and you say, well, how much might I make when in a good year, when the market's doing really well? And then you look and say, well, how much might I lose if the market's doing really poorly, like say in 2008? Those numbers are really close to the same number. So a balanced investor today, to give you an example, if someone's a stereotypical balanced investor, you might say, hey, I'm diversified, I'm balanced, yay, I feel good. Here's reality. Reality is this. If the markets do really, really well, you might make as much as, say, 25% in a really good year.
Hey, it sounds great.
Yeah, we're going to be, nobody's mad at their advisor when that happens.
Rocking
right?
and rolling.
But in a really bad year, you could lose 25%. So in other words, the amount you make and the amount you lose are really close to the same number. That is symmetrical investing, and there's not a chance in the world a wealthy person would accept that.
Right.
Right? Or a hedge fund, or like a big institution, or a foundation, or an endowment. Like big money, they would never accept that. Yet, everyday Americans have that happening all the time.
So just to briefly recap, symmetrical investing, your general investor who is in a balanced portfolio, they're symmetrically invested this way.
Yeah, they might make 25% in a good year, lose 25% in a bad. And here's the problem. Nobody remembers the bad years because we haven't had one in forever.
Right.
Right? Now, how does that compare with asymmetrical investing? Asymmetrical investing means the wealthy person in their balanced portfolio, if the market does well, they may make 25% just like you, right? And so they're no different really there. But in a bad market year, instead of losing 25%, they might lose 5 or 10% at the most, never more than 10. So in other words, asymmetrical means that, a good year plus 25 and a bad year minus, say, 7 or 8, those are not the same number. My opportunity of loss is very small compared to my opportunity for gain. So what does that really mean to you? Let's say you got $1 million, and you might have more, you might have less, right? So I'll just use $1 million because it's a round figure. If you invest $1 million in a balanced portfolio, if the market has a bad year, you could lose $250,000.
I don't want to lose $250K.
Yeah, and you probably don't even realize you could. What about a wealthy investor? If for the same $1 million, a bad market year, they might lose $70,000. You're losing $250,000, they're losing $70,000. That's $180,000 of risk that you're taking on your investing that, quite frankly, you don't need to.
Right.
It's just not that hard to invest asymmetrically. Here's the problem. The big financial firms, they just don't care. I mean, let's be honest. Unless you have like $10, $25 million, they really don't care about you. You don't have enough money for them to really pay attention to. So they just put you in just kind of cookie cutter portfolios and away you go. Right? And they just, hey, everybody lost 25% this year. That's everybody. Nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, so be it. It happens.
Which is pure BS.
Right. Pure BS.
Let's move on to the second thing. And, this is the one near and dear to my heart.
Your favorite topic.
Taxes.
Yep.
Taxes. This is just like the Brady Bunch, episode where it's Marsha.
Taxes. And Mike.
Mike is like, taxes, right?
Yes.
So as time goes on, the IRS, they're just going to want a larger slice of your savings.
Right.
Most people, if you're like most people, the majority of your money is probably in your 401k.
Right. It's what we're told to do.
Yeah. 401ks, 403bs, 457s. That's where the money is. The problem is that money's never been taxed. And at some point down the road, the IRS is going to say to you, hey, you got to pull the money out, and we're going to take a chunk of it every time you do.
Right.
But it's worse than that because they don't just take a chunk of that money. Many times when you take distributions from your 401k or your IRA, especially if you're in retirement, suddenly not only do you pay tax on that money, you pay more tax on your Social Security, right? Before you took the money out, your Social Security, maybe it was tax-free. Maybe you paid a small amount of tax. But suddenly, I took an IRA distribution or a 401k distribution. Suddenly, I'm paying tax on almost all my Social Security. That's called double taxation, right? Your capital gains. You might be in a tax bracket where you pay little to no tax on capital gains. Suddenly, pulled some money out of my 401k. Suddenly, I'm paying tax on my capital gains. Now we're at triple taxation, right? And it goes on and on. And what are they talking about in Washington, D.C.? They want to do what? Increase the amount of taxes that they charge you. Guess what? If you look at usdebtclock.org, you're going to learn that this is not a one-time thing.
Right. I'm shocked to hear all of this.
Yeah, taxes are going up. What's kind of interesting is, we talk about how bad taxes are today. If you look historically, we are kind of near all-time lows. Like the top tax brackets right now are what, 37 to 40%? Historically, there was a 50-year period of time where they were over 50.
Wow.
Top tax brackets were 70%. They were, after World War II, it was 94.
That's
it's
crazy.
just crazy, right? So here's the thing. Taxes, you're living in a cave if you don't think tax rates are going to increase. It's going to happen. The question is, to what are you just going to be like an ostrich? Are you going to sit there and bury your head in the sand and ignore it?
Yeah, and say, all right, I got to take it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Sure.
Or are you actually going to pay attention and plan for it? So I'm going to give you a real world example of that, right? Couple comes in, they have, and I'm going to just round these numbers off, okay? Call it $1 million in their 401k. Again, you might have more than that, you might have less. Doesn't matter. I'm just using this example to give, because it's a round number and it's easy to work off of. They got $1 million in their 401k. They've got some Social Security. They want to live on $7,000 a month. That's their deal. They want $7,000 a month to live on. They want it to grow with inflation. And we did the math for them and like, hey, check it out. You guys are in great shape. But let's talk a little bit about the tax road you're on. And we learned that their first year of retirement, $84,000 of spendable income that they want, $7,000 a month times 12 is $84,000. Say, hey, we want to live on $7,000 a month. Their tax bill on that, Zach, it was like $6,000.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, $84K that you're living on, that $6,000 tax, you have to pull out $90 to live on, pay $6 to the IRS, live on $84. That's a pretty low tax bracket.
That's not too bad.
Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? But as they age, inflation creeps up their income. They hit age 72, 401k is required distributions. Their taxes go up every little year, a little bit.
It's kind of creeping up on them.
Yeah, they creep up. By the time they're in their 70s, early 70s, now it's like $11,000 a year on the same income. By the time they're in their mid-80s, $21,000 a year on the same income. Gone from $6,000 to $21,000. That's more than triple.
Right.
Why? Well, required distributions. They're being forced to pull more money out of their 401k than they're spending. So they just have to reinvest it, I guess.
Right.
But then here's the real kick in the pants. Husband dies, because we're never going to say the wife dies first. That would be.
We always got to attack the men.
Never pick on the wife. Always pick on the husband.
Right.
Right? First spouse dies. By the way, it doesn't matter who dies first. First spouse dies. Surviving spouse says, hey, I still want the same level of income, basically. I still have the same expenses. But their tax bill goes from $21,000 to, in this case, $34,000.
Oh, my gosh.
Like a 50+% increase. On the same income. Why? Because we're a single taxpayer.
Right.
Not a married taxpayer. Here's the question. Has anybody told them about that before they came to see us?
Probably not.
No, nobody tells them this stuff. And if you don't know, you're just head buried in the sand. You don't
Yeah.
know. How do you know if you have a problem?
Then you're not doing anything about it.
Now, with planning, what if we said, well, what if we did some Roth conversions or something? Let's put together a Roth conversion schedule over the next 7 years, right? Or 5 to 7 years. Let's convert some of that IRA to Roth or that 401k to Roth. And if you do it the right way, now when they're in their 80s, instead of having a $21,000 tax bill, it's like $2,000.
Yep.
Instead of the surviving spouse paying $34,000 in tax, they're paying $3,400. I mean, like 90% tax reduction later in life, all by paying a little bit of tax up front.
Right.
And over time, in this particular case, it saved that couple over $188,000. That's right, almost $200,000. $188,000 of tax saved over their lifetime.
It's a life-changing amount.
That's $188,000 that they were able to keep in their pocket and not give to the IRS.
Love that.
Question. They spent like a total of 2 hours with us over, a couple of meetings. Do you think that was worth their time?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, duh. Okay, what about you? Let me ask you this question. What about you? Do you know what your future tax liability is going to look like? If you want complete financial security, part of that means that you not only know what your future looks like from a tax perspective, but you're also actively engaging in tax planning each and every year. Not, I do it this year and I'm done. Each and every year to make sure you're giving the IRS the least amount of money over time. It's not just what you paid this year, it's what you're paying in the future as well. Are you doing that? Do you know, if you're married, what your surviving spouse's tax bill would be if you passed away? I mean, Zach, I'll bet you 95+% of people have no clue.
I'd agree with that.
They have no clue. Stop just giving the IRS money blindly, right? Let's be smart about this. And number 3, you got to protect yourselves from the unknowns. Now, what am I talking about here? The way I think about it, there's kind of 3 ways to think about this. Here we go.
Okay.
You could live too long, die too soon, or get sick along the way.
These are all uncomfortable things to think about.
Well, first, I had a great conversation the other day with a very nice gentleman, and he was commenting about how, people really misunderstand, or maybe they're unaware of how fast the medical community is advancing their ability to treat diseases. Right? I mean, it's like, think about it. Computers grow, memory and speed, they grow at like exponential rates. We all know that. Well, guess what? The same is true about every field. Every field's growing at exponential rates, and the medical community is no different. So the things that kill us, doctors are now helping us. They say, oh, I got that. We got you fixed. Now, your lifestyle might not be so good on the other side or as good, or maybe it will be.
Right.
But here's reality. We're all living longer than we expected.
Yep.
Right? I mean, if you're 65 today and you're healthy, I mean, if I'm in your shoes, I'm thinking, man, I'm probably living to 90, 95 easy.
Yeah, my great-grandma was 103 when she passed.
She's 103, and that's before all these medical advances, right? So I think that something that people miss all the time, enjoying complete financial security is all about making sure that your money, that you can just live on your money. Like you want work to be optional, right? But it's not just I want work to be optional. It means I'm working because I want to work, not because I have to. But it also means, gosh, my money, if I choose to stop working and choose to devote, maybe towards volunteering or a hobby or something else, your money might have to last a lot longer than you think. Mm-hmm. Right? So you might live, in fact, not might. Odds are very good you will live longer than you expect.
Right.
You got to plan for that. Well, but what? And by the way, if you manage your money properly, that's okay.
Sure.
We got that covered. That's not the big problem. The big problem are the other two. What if you die too soon? Or what if you get sick along the way?
The unexpected.
Yeah, so what if you die too soon? Oh my gosh, do you have enough life insurance? Right? Do you have enough life insurance? Most people don't. And here's a good way to think about it. What is the purpose of life insurance? It's to replace lost wages, right? If you're retired, you say, oh, great, I'm retired. I don't need life insurance anymore. Not so fast. Think about all the taxes you owe on your 401k. Would it be a good idea? Like if you had $1 million 401k, like $300,000 of that isn't your money. It belongs to the IRS. If you died, now your spouse, a single taxpayer, is going to be in a higher tax bracket. Wouldn't it be a great idea to leave your spouse, like maybe, I don't know, $300,000 of tax-free life insurance that he or she can use to say, oh, I'm going to convert that IRA to a Roth IRA and get the IRS out of my life. Wouldn't that be a good idea? Heck yes. And by the way, this is a fun one. Go find someone that got a check, a life insurance check, because their spouse died, and that check was like $500,000 or $1 million. And ask that person, what do you think? Was it a good idea or a bad idea that they had life insurance?
Good idea.
It's always a good idea. It's never a bad idea, right? So anyway, term insurance, for example, it's so cheap these days. It is so cheap. There's no reason to be underinsured. So if you're still working, rule of thumb in today's interest rate environment, look, get like 15 times your salary. You're making $100,000 a year, get $1.5 million of death benefit in term insurance. You're like, what? I mean, come on, $1.5 million, really? Man, it's probably like $50 a month or something. I mean, probably it costs almost nothing. It's ridiculous.
Pretty reasonable.
If you're going to make a mistake, be overinsured, not underinsured with life insurance, especially if you're younger, still working. What else do we need to think about? What if we get sick?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you probably have health insurance through your work, right? You hit 65, you've got Medicare, which is about the best insurance there is. That's not what I'm talking about. What if you get sick with something that maybe your health insurance or Medicare doesn't cover? And that happens all the time. And I'm talking about long-term care. I know this is not everybody's favorite topic, right? But again, if you want complete financial security, this is just like taxes. You cannot bury your head in the sand. You can't be an ostrich. Be an adult and look forward and say, hey, what happens if I get Alzheimer's? Medicare doesn't pay for that. Health insurance doesn't pay for that. How am I going to pay for that? You know, both my grandmothers, Zach, they both died in nursing homes with Alzheimer's. Both of them, when both my grandmothers retired, this is really interesting, both my grandparents, both sets, my mother's side, my father's side,
Mm-hmm.
when they retired, in today's dollars, they had over $1 million. Neither set of grandparents were big spenders. In both cases, my grandfathers both died at the age of 67 from heart attacks. Like, they retired at 62 or 65.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years later, boom, they're gone. Heart attack, right? Leaving my grandmothers on their own. But everything's going fine until, guess what? They didn't plan for taxes. We talked about that in the last segment. So suddenly, my grandmothers, more money to the IRS, less money for them.
Yep.
And then they both ended up getting Alzheimer's. They're both in nursing homes. They both died without one penny to their name.
Wow.
Why? Because they buried their head in the sand. They ignored the problem. By the way, my grandparents, way back then, I mean, this was like probably 20 years ago or more. And let's be honest, that wasn't like if you retired in 1975 or 78, long-term care just wasn't in our lexicon. That we weren't talking about that.
Right.
Nobody cared. I mean, because we didn't live through this stuff. We just died.
Right.
But both my grandmothers died in their 80s, and both with Alzheimer's for like 5 years plus. All their money ended up in the nursing home.
Yep.
Is that what you want?
No.
I mean, think about it. If you die too soon, is your family going to be okay? If you get sick, Will your surviving spouse be okay? Do you want all your money going to the nursing home? Or would you rather keep it in your family?
Right.
If you live too long, are you going to run out of money? Or are you doing things the right way? How are you protecting yourself against the unknown? Have you truly addressed it? You know, when most people go see a financial advisor, what does that conversation look like? You know, usually all the advisor wants to do is talk about your investing.
Right.
Why? Because that's where they get paid. But that's just one piece of the coin, or one piece of the puzzle, if you will, one side of the coin, I guess. That's not complete financial security. Complete financial security is the three things. One, manage your money properly, asymmetrical versus symmetrical investing. If I could just really drive one point home, I want you to be aware of that. Asymmetrical investing versus symmetrical. Second, got to be smart about your tax planning. And third, absolutely, you've got to protect yourself. What if you live too long, die too soon, get sick along the way? Mm-hmm. Remember, when it comes to your financial world, we want you to enjoy the 3 C's. What are those? Control. The first C is control. I want you to feel like you have control of your financial situation. And if you have control of your financial situation, or you feel that way, that leads to the second C, which is confidence. You want to have the confidence that work is optional for you, or that you're on that path. You want to have confidence that you're making all those right decisions. If you have control of your finances, if you have that confidence, that leads to our third C, which is comfort and peace of mind. That comfort and peace of mind that no matter what the world throws your way, it doesn't matter what the stock market does, doesn't matter what the people in Washington, D.C. do.
Right.
I just, oh boy, I could use so many other words for them. Doesn't matter what they do, right? Doesn't matter. I mean, whatever happens, you're prepared, right? You have that financial security, and it's complete. It's not partially covered. It's fully covered.
Right.
So as we wrap up the show today, here's what I want you to do, if you haven't done it yet. You call our number. What is it? 512-886-5850.
Yep.
Is that right?
You got it.
It's amazing that I can remember these numbers.
Right.
So again, that's 512-886-5850. Just give us a call. And when you call, you get the answering service. They'll say, hey, let's set up a time for you to talk to Zach. You talk to my co-host, Zach, here. He's a very nice guy. And he'll just say, hey, tell me a little bit about your situation. He'll tell you, here's some, let's collect some information so we can put this together. Or he might say, hey, let me set up a call with Mike with you so he can collect the information. We want to give you the easiest path to complete financial security. Think about how comfortable that'll be. I mean, won't it be, look, probably in the back of your mind, you needed to do this anyway. Now's the time. Let's make it simple. Let's make it simple. Let's make it easy. It's a piece of cake. Call the number. Let's visit. Let's have a conversation, right? So, Zach, let's get that number out there.
One more time, Mike. It's 512-886-5850. Again, 512-886-5850. Now, before we hop off the air here this evening, Mike, do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, for sure. I always have thoughts.
Yeah.
I mean, final thoughts?
Just for today, though.
Oh, okay. Just this week's thoughts. No, I'll tell you what. Here's the deal. You're going to have to deal with this at some point, right? Let's not make it hard. Let's make it easy. No excuse. It takes, 2 minutes? Give us a call. Let's get it done. 512-886-5850. Hey, looking forward to talking to you. Had a great show this week. See you again next week.